Welcome to the Gun Cranks audio podcast, the audio-only version of the Gun Cranks YouTube channel. The Gun Cranks are one of the internet's most unique gun talk shows, and it's anybody's guess where the discussion will go each week. Each episode is packed full of information and gun fun as they discuss and maybe even cuss their way through the topic at hand. The Gun Cranks are brought to you by FMG Publications, the publisher of American Handgunner and Guns magazines, along with AmericanCop.com. If you'd like to see the Gun Cranks face-to-face, head over to our YouTube channel of the same name. But if not, get ready for another great episode of the Gun Cranks.
Well, happy Turkey Day Eve, and welcome to the Gun Cranks. I'm your host, Brent Wheat, as always, and with me is Tom McHale, American Handgunner editor, and Roy Huntington, and we're going to have a hot time in the Old Town tonight as we get ready for Turkey Day tomorrow. Hello, gentlemen.
I know I'm gonna burn off all the calories doing this first before Thanksgiving. So
okay, so you're gonna get fired up tonight, huh?
I'm gonna get fired up tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about gun rights or something, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking
Good.
about the great lies that Joe Biden tells, and he tells some whoppers. So, Roy, how are you? Hello.
I'm waiting to see what happens and if you guys have jobs when we're done.
No kidding. Well, I will say we're having some little trouble with the video tonight. So if there's some glitches in here, we're doing the best we can. It's not on our end. It's on all that technology. And
You know what's happening?
yeah, I know what
Big
you're going to
tech
say.
censorship is it's happening right before our very eyes.
Exactly.
Y'all can see it, right? They're jamming our signal.
There's a 22-year-old liberal arts major sitting in the bowels of a building going, no, they don't need to talk about that. They don't need to talk about that.
That doesn't sound like a conspiracy theory, does it?
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, it was on InfoWars, so it's legit, I think, right?
You're not paranoid if they really are out to get you.
And they really are out to get us.
I think they are. They are.
Hey, you laugh, but being paranoid has kept me alive since the last time I was abducted by aliens. So just saying, it works.
That's Tom McHale, everybody.
And did you just hear about that monolith they found up in Utah somewhere? Did you hear about that? I just saw
you're
it
kidding.
on the internet. No, I'm really not. Before I logged in, it said fishing game wardens were conducting a sheep inventory up in the mountains. Okay. And one of them said, whoa, wait, come back. And they looked down and they found this monolith looking thing that looks like the one from 2001, A Space Odyssey. And they landed and they have pictures of them by it. And so but that's all there. It was like within the last few hours, it's just all got posted, and it's all over the news now. And then
oh my God, I've been off news all day.
I know a lot of people are saying, I'm hoping and betting that it's some art. People do stupid things like that, and they put an art thing up. But when we're done, just jump online and you'll see it all. And I just hope the hell it's real, because suddenly all this political stuff's just going to disappear and that's going to dominate the headlines.
Well, let's hope so.
If nothing else, you've got me inspired to rewatch that movie over the long weekend coming up. So.
Well, when you said sheep counting, I thought, okay, there's a punchline here, right?
Is there a joke here? No, it's not a joke. I kept thinking, okay, this is like clickbait bait, stupid and everything, but no one's doing cheek at this point. Everyone's like going, we don't really know what this is yet. So we'll see.
Well, when you say, it could be a joke, well, that just takes us full circle into our topic tonight, which is Joe Biden and the incoming administration's gun policies, and more specifically, the great lies that they are telling. And yes, we're going to say they're telling lies.
No one's going to take your guns.
Liar.
Let me ask you this. In 8 years, did Obama come confiscate all your guns door to door? No? Okay, so it's not going to happen.
See?
Right.
Well, then we can just be done. Huh.
Right.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I was just trying on that line
show.
for size. I've heard it so many times. I thought I'd, try it out and see if I could say it with a straight face.
Well, I've got my show prep right here, and let me just quote Mr. Beto O'Rourke, however you say it, which is, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore. And he's going to be the gun czar for the Bidens. So
yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well,
see if that pans out. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about the lies because, I've realized something here of late, and I realize at my advanced age that I probably should have realized this before, but we were all brought up as gun owners and responsible human beings, and we have a conservative political bent, and we were always told to be straightforward, to be honorable, to mean what you say, not to lie, deal with people, straightforwardly. And I suddenly realized that's completely gone out the window. The other side of the political aisle, the gun banners, I will lump those in with progressives because, frankly, they're mostly in lockstep. It's like they realized a few years ago, they'll just lie. I mean, because I think they feel they're so morally superior to us because they care about the children and we don't, and we're horrible human beings and we're deplorable, that they can just lie to us. And unfortunately, our friends in the mass media have completely capitulated their objectivity. So they're part and parcel of this too. So where we're at now is we're trying to have an intelligent discourse and discuss fact and things like that. And the other side's just lying to us. So with that,
35 or 40 years ago, when the media had some tiny semblance of seeing journalists, they would, they'd say, well, Mr. Jones or Mr. Brady, are you sure that's true? But nowadays, you're exactly right, Brent. They have no premise of objective fact reporting at all. Well, so the other side can say the earth is flat. Yeah.
I do want to point out something, though. I think if you ask the media these days, they would blame Trump for the distrust of the media. And they have no clue, so little self-awareness that they don't realize people have not trusted the media for 20 or 30 years now. This is not new. The whole fake news hashtag got popular the past few years. But I mean, how long have you distrusted the media?
Well, it's been a while, but I do say it's gotten far more partisan in the last 4 years. They've decided.
I'd say 12.
Trump, oh, okay. I don't know.
No, I mean seriously. I
don't remember such bald-face, complete lies being told by mainstream media organizations. They at least, gave a wink and a nod to the opposing viewpoint. And now we've gone back to yellow journalism for the most part. And part of it's the internet, because as we were just discussing before we came on, the wilder and crazier and clickier you are, the more you're rewarded in traffic. And news media, since they've decided to give away all of their product when the internet came along, that's how they have to fight for eyeballs. So I think we have basically gone back to yellow journalism, and part of it's a changing face of journalists, and part of it's just the realities of the business world, that if you say Donald Trump might have robbed a liquor store last night, well, a lot of people are going to click on it.
There is good news in all this, though.
Would you remember what?
Okay, I was just going to say there's good news in all this, though, is that the media is becoming less and less relevant with each passing day. I mean, we're getting very close to the point where, with real time news from everyone to everyone every second of the day, we don't need a news filter anymore, Yeah,
exactly.
Well, do you remember the Joey Zuzu commercials where with the absolutely straight face, Joe Zuzu would come on and say, the Zuzu trooper gets 350 miles to the gallon. And then he would smile,
Those were epic.
And then say, and goes, 100,000 miles between oil changes. And then he would like look at the camera and smile.
Yep.
And we all laughed at the time because we thought, yeah, right. Okay. We get it though,
Yeah.
But nowadays they actually do that and they expect you to believe it.
They do. So I wanted to just point out that's the great overarching lie here is they're lying to us. They have every intention of taking our guns one way or the other. So let's drill down into some of these specific lies. Now, I'll start with one of my favorites, which is this is brilliant. And I've talked about this before. Gun safety organizations. They're not gun control. They're not anti-gun. They're gun safety. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say it's a lie, but in the grand scheme, it's a lie. They're not teaching safety classes. They're not promoting safety. They're not.
Wait. What?
They're liars.
Wait a minute. You're saying that I can't go there and take a safety class?
Nope, not at all.
Wow. Dang. Who knew?
Yeah. And I got to give props to Dave Workman, our 2A guy, that he wrote a column about this that I've mentioned before is next time you have to debate one of these folks, if you do, or point out to the media that you're taking what they say at face value, when do they have classes? What are their outreach things to make, to educate on gun? Because if they're gun safety, that's about having your gun safe, right? Mm-hmm. So what are they doing to make guns safe? What they're doing is they're trying to take guns away from everybody. It's a lie.
It is a lie.
Have you heard there's some organizations out there. It's like, American Hunters for Animals
yes.
and, things like that. And at the outside, it looks like, okay. We've had readers say, hey, I was thinking of joining my, this organization because I want to preserve wildlife and that. But when you get into it, it's lie. It's mm-hmm. all about gun control. It's all about gun control. And so actually, which gives us a chance to warn readers before you send your check off, mm-hmm. be it the NRA or anybody else, do your research.
Yeah, that's something that people don't understand, not to get off on a tangent, but there's a prominent animal health and welfare organization that advertises with, shivering puppies all the time. And they don't do anything for animals. They basically fundraise, and they're an anti-farming, anti-hunting, anti-any animal use at all. Basically, they want to see animals wearing shirts and going to work like we do, I guess.
Yeah,
is Roy still there?
That's a big word.
Morphic. Good Lord.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
Well, like I said, we're having trouble with the video feed, so we're delayed back and forth, and I'm trying to listen and mm-hmm. pronounce, and this is kind of a hot dumpster fire tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of like the State of the Union. Huh?
Yeah, no kidding. So gun safety and then common sense gun laws. Who would be against common sense? We all want to have common sense, right? Well, hopefully by now we've all figured out what do they want? They want to do away with guns. So what's that word? They're lying, and the journalists don't call them out on it.
We need to drill into that though, because that's the, and I say this carefully, that's the beauty of their strategy. Mm-hmm. They can legitimately stand up and say, we're not coming to confiscate your guns. And that's probably a true statement. That won't happen, right? Not anytime soon. There's not going to be brown shirted, jackbooted, thugs going door to door trying to although that's happened,
yeah.
Well, in New Orleans. But that's not a likely scenario anytime soon. So I think it'd behoove us to talk a little bit about what it will look like. Why is that how exactly is that a lie?
Okay. I will cede the floor to you. Explain why the brown shirts aren't coming to the door yet.
Well, I mean, the smart strategy is no one has the authority or the will or the political capital to do that tomorrow, right? And I've heard, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. Well, in 8 years of Obama, no one came and took all your guns. Well, that's true, but they did everything in their legal power to inch towards that goal, right? And I think that's what we're in for, depending on what shakes out with all this election controversy going on right now. That's exactly what we're in for, is 2 more years of that,
Yep.
So there are a lot of ways this stuff happens. Right. I mean,
well, a lot of people say, like you said, after 8 years of Obama, they didn't come and get your guns. But as much as I disagree with the NRA, they tend to fight absolutely everything 100%. And I never really understood that very well until I actually was talking with the hierarchy up there. And they said, well, here's the problem. If I compromise on something, then they're already got more than they were asking for or trying to get. If I don't compromise on anything, I'm still going to lose a certain percentage. So they're still going to win. Yeah. And when I realized that, I thought it's like a little kid. Can I have a cookie? 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 That's what the gun grabbers are doing right now. And finally, you just go, okay, no, but look, here's a quarter of a cookie there. Okay. And they say, thank you. And then you think that, you did really good. And they just did exactly what they wanted to do.
Yep.
Well, think of the pie analogy, right? We've got a pie. And every time we go to fight over one of these issues, we're negotiating. And all of the reasonable people out there say, hey, just compromise and give up some of your pie. So, okay, we'll give up half the pie. Now we're fighting over half a pie. Well, just compromise just a little, just give them something, to shut them up. Okay, here's another quarter of the pie. Now we're down to a quarter of a pie. I mean, it's been this one-way slide for 40 some years now, nonstop. So
yep.
You got to think that way. You really do.
Well, and one of the planks I was looking for it here on Joe Biden's presidential website, is a campaign website. One of the things they want to do is basically make any quote unquote assault weapon, which could be your semi-automatic shotgun. They want to make that an NFA item, which means a $200 tax stamp. And some people have said every year. I don't know if that's actually in their platform, but at the very least, imagine retroactive to January 1 of 2021, all of your semi-automatics may need a tax stamp. And along with that becomes another background investigation and more documentation, because it's the same in the eyes of the law as a silencer or a legal machine gun. So that doesn't exactly inspire warm and fuzzy feelings for these guys. But, like Tom said, the divide and conquer as well, because they're counting on the fact that not everybody that shoots owns a black rifle, and there's well-documented struggles in our community of some people, percentages say, you don't need those things anyway. But if you haven't learned anything from the past, it's not just black rifles. It's right. It's eventually all of them.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, the real scary thing is people might be sitting there listening saying, that requires a law and Congress and all this. No, it doesn't. Mm-mm. Okay, let's say it's January 21st, 2021, and Mr. Biden is in office. With one stroke of a pen, he can weaponize the ATF and take, I don't know how many there are probably 8 million AR pistols in the marketplace right now, floating around. No law change, no nothing. One ATF ruling that says, nope, that is a short barrel rifle. We've evaluated the situation. That is now a short-barreled rifle, and every single one of those is now classified as an NFA item, requiring that $200 tax stamp and this and that and the other thing. So, no laws, no Supreme Court case, no nothing. We have just reclassified a massive number of existing firearms into something still legal, but virtually impossible to own legally. When we're talking about $200 tax stamps and 2-year wait times to get approved by Uncle Sam to have that. So
yep.
With or without Congress, there's a heck of a lot that can be done here.
And that sets a precedent. So let's say if they take a tiny portion of the industry, like your analogy of AR-15 pistols is perfect. And if they succeed there, well, then they've just set precedents, and they know how to go after it after that.
Yep.
So,
yep.
And a lot of people say, well, my cold dead fingers, you'll never get my gun out of me, which is great. I understand. I got it. Except now you own a gun that makes you a felon.
Yep.
And so by the stroke of a pen, the president has created 8 million felons unless they adhere to the new rule.
Right.
So
Scary stuff.
I wish we had answers. A little retrospective, when the AR style pistols first came out in the industry, I think it was Olympic Arms in those days, who I believe are out of business now, but I'm not sure. Sorry, Olympic Arms, if you're still in business. But I remember when they did the first AR-15 pistols, we all groaned because we went, do you really need to go there? You're just going to give them ammunition that they're going to use against us. Of course, as you say, that part of the industry exploded, and still does. And
I've got one here. This is a great one. And I actually highlighted this and put it on my sheet. This is from the Biden website. It says, it's talking about the header of this section is ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high capacity magazines. And it says federal law prevents hunters from hunting migratory birds with more than 3 shells in their shotgun. And here's what I highlighted. That means our federal law does more to protect ducks than children.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know it was legal to hunt children, maybe in Washington, D.C., but
Portland, I think it is.
Well, that could be, especially if they're conservatives.
Yeah.
But, how do you argue logic with somebody that makes a statement like that? We're protecting.
Well, there is no logic.
There is no logic.
Yeah, exactly. It's all emotion. It's all, what is it? Left brain? Is that the emotional side of your brain?
I believe so. Yeah.
It's all left brain stuff. That's all they talk is in left brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always like the part where they say, even if this doesn't really do anything, at least we're making a statement.
Yeah.
Still common sense, right?
Really? Yeah. Really? Yeah.
Gentlemen, this kind of circles back, but let me read the following sentence after the duck sentence. Biden will also use his executive authority to ban the importation of assault weapons.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up. That's another instant pen stroke that requires no input from Congress whatsoever, is to shut down imports.
Yep.
Well, and people
ammunition too.
People think they don't do that now. I recently bought some round butt Model 10 K-frame revolvers from a company online, and they had no barrels. And so they were offering them as a good deal. I'm going to build guns on them for fun. But I called them up and I said, they're obviously imports, they're surplus, police surplus. I said, why are there no barrels on them? And they said, according to federal law, they're not allowed to import guns with less than a 4-inch barrel like this. So they had to either cut all the barrels or just unscrew the barrels and bring them in. And so people who say these laws don't affect us now, because that's about as harmless as you can get. These are 35-year-old 6-shot, antique revolvers, basically. And they were not allowed to bring them in because they had 4-inch barrels.
Yeah. Well, here's another one I wanted to highlight. Reduce the stockpiling of weapons. In order to reduce the stockpiling of weapons, Biden supports legislation restricting the number of firearms an individual may purchase per month to 1. You get 12 guns a year. That's it.
Well, how many do you need, really?
All you can carry plus 1.
I just can't say that kind of stuff with a straight face. I'm trying.
I know.
I'm trying to channel the anti side here and see if I can do it, but I can't.
Well, take a big hammer and hit yourself, and then maybe
it doesn't work though. You just look at California; they've had one gun for what, I don't know, 15 years or 20 years. It was like that when I lived there. And all you did was you bought 1 gun a month, which means you bought 12 guns a year, even if you kind of didn't really need to. You were like buying proactive, thinking, well, this is going to feel like I get 2 guns next month because I bought one this month. Yep. And multiply that by all the shooters. I bet you that's why I haven't seen the market slump in California. Have you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not preventing anybody there,
Well, that's just it. When that's the argument we always make against these common sense gun safety advocates. Look at the socialist utopia that California is. It's still one of our biggest weapon buying states. And you can tell that all these regulations have done nothing to slow the commerce, and they've also done nothing to slow crime. And the city of Chicago, which is truly the epitome of gun control, you basically still can't really have weapons there. obviously we know no danger there, is there? You know, the forecast now from the National Weather Service, because I take my boat up there to Lake Michigan, and you know, it calls for moderate chop and light to medium small arms fire on the weekend.
I just read before we went live, they're at 700 homicides this year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, how many Monday mornings in a row have you gotten the news report by literally record breaking stuff over the past weekend in Chicago? I mean, at some point, you know, you think maybe somebody would say, maybe there's a human behavior element to this thing. Maybe, you know, maybe it's not just the objects, you know, because I live in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which has a gun ownership rate through the roof. And I'm pretty sure we're not, facing 700 murders this year so far. So,
Well, I'm not going to go there.
you know, I was talking to an anti-gunner the other day, and foolishly, I was trying to mostly mind them for what they were thinking. And I realized that they weren't thinking, period, that became obvious right away. It was all that left brain stuff. And I said, so you just want to have an open discussion so we can communicate about this, right? And they said, yes. And I said, okay. So I started talking about things like this, about the logic behind it and the sanity and laws and gun owners and how we treat each other and our respect for the law and stuff like that. And she literally turned her head and started to sort of gaze off the distance, completely detuned from what I was trying to say. And it dawned on me that in a microcosm, that's the problem. It's like they want to have an open discourse as long as you agree with them completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, while we're on this left brain thing, can I read you some Today news? I ran across this earlier today. You all heard about there was a shooting at a mall in Wayfair Mall or something not too long ago. Right. I think 8 people got injured. Quote from the mayor. Mayfair has a strict no-gun policy, Wauwatosa Mayor Dennis R. McBride declared Saturday about Friday's Mayfair Mall shootings. If the shooter had complied with that policy, no one would have been hurt yesterday.
You're kidding.
Do I need to read that again? I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Jesus.
How do you address that level of stupidity? How do you do it? Did you guys hear my sound effect?
Yes,
I did.
It was perfect.
I've got here now.
But that's who we're dealing with.
Yeah.
How on earth do you engage that person in any kind of, I mean, what he should have said was come on and said, I wish there had been an armed citizen there who would have been able to engage this man and stop the carnage. You know, that's what he should
I wish I'd been in that room and said, I'm pretty sure there's a policy pretty much everywhere against murder.
He broke 2 laws.
Pretty sure, maybe not Portland or Chicago, but everywhere else.
If you're conservative in Portland,
there is a policy against murder. I'm almost certain. So
stunning.
I don't know, man.
Amazing.
What do we tell? What do we tell our readers and our friends? Because the readers are our friends. What do we tell them? How are they going to respond to this? I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to fight back, and I'm going to be vocal, and I'm going to be visible, and I'm not going to light lawns on fire, and I'm not going to do that kind of stuff, but I'm going to be vocal, and I'm going to try to be articulate, and I'm going to dress nicely if I'm going to be on a local TV show, and I'll be respectful, even if they're not being respectful to me, because that shows. I still don't think it's going to win. I'm sorry. I think we're in a helter-skelter, full-scale, 100-mile-an-hour crash and burn journey right now. And it might be 10 years or it might be 15 years.
Yeah. The scariest part is the non-legislative stuff. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but from what I've been hearing a lot recently is the previous administration to this one for 8 years, it was scandal free. According to themselves, it was the only scandal free administration in American history. Now, so obviously this didn't happen But if there was a scandal, that didn't because it was scandal free, they would do evil things like, say stuff called Operation Choke Point. You remember that one? Where let's use the executive branch of the government to apply pressure to banks and financial institutions who do business with undesirables like gun and ammunition manufacturers or retailers or shooting ranges or places like that. And we tell all their banks that, they just might get extra audit scrutiny if they choose to do business with undesirables like that.
Yep. Congress, and they're running the guns to Mexico.
No, nothing. Yeah.
Fast and Furious.
Furious. Hello.
Well, that didn't happen either because it was scandal free.
It was free. Did they actually say that for real?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
they
the
did
mantra nowadays. Scandal free. So a new book just came out by the leader of the scandal free administration, and that's
did you see the
theme in it?
Did you see the latest thing that Obama said? Was that basically we need to have thought police from the government?
I'm just getting sick to my stomach.
I know. No, he just said to stop hate speech and stuff. So I'll send you the link after the show.
So what do you do about that stuff? What do you do when Washington has that much power, even without legislation?
Well, I'm going to get on my soapbox now. And let me tell a quick story. I've got a good friend who is extremely intelligent, and he's educated and erudite and very thoughtful. He's also very wealthy, and he deals with a wide variety of people in his profession. So we've never really talked about politics. I knew he's a gun owner, but you'd have to pry it out of him. And we were discussing this recently, and he looked at me and I said, "How's it going to be if like you and I are suddenly felons?" And he goes, "We'll just have to resist." And I thought, whoa, to hear a guy like that, because, the stereotype is Billy Bob, living in the shack, he's going to fight the government. When you hear intelligent people with lots and lots of zeros in their bank account, very thoughtful, and they say words like that. And I don't mean actively physically resist, even though I don't know what he meant, but we're going to get to that point. And I hear it so much and I see it so much. I think what the other side doesn't understand, we've been pushed, maybe our backs are against the wall. So I'm not advocating harming anybody, but everybody needs to think about this and what will you do to not let this happen to you? So that's maybe more provocative than you think I should say, but I'm not the only one saying it.
Can I get on my soapbox for a minute?
Please do.
I think there's a productive step before that stage even. And I think I can say this safely because I sincerely believe this is nonpartisan. It really is. As you guys may know, I'm kind of a constitutional buff. I wrote a book on that, which you can find on Amazon.com, called The Practical Guide to the United States Constitution. But that aside, there is a project going on now that has really piqued my interest. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called the Convention of States. And to make a long story short, it's basically if every state in the union, or I believe it's 2/3 of the states in the union, say, hey, we need to have a state convention because it's time to discuss, not necessarily change, but discuss amendments to the Constitution, they can do that without one iota of permission from Washington, D.C. And that thing is steamrolling ahead full speed. I think last count, there are about 30 states that have active initiatives, either approval or partial approval in their state legislatures to support a convention of the states. And what's interesting, I'm actually bringing this around full circle. What's interesting about that is the key agenda item that everybody wants to talk about if there would be a convention of states is term limits. Now, I don't know about you, but if I could pick one thing that would make our way of life far, far, far better, it's term limits, right? I think we can all, whatever side of the aisle you're on, we can all agree that it's a real good idea to get people the heck out of Washington after they've worked there for a few years. Is that common sense? I don't know.
Schumer would be gone at all.
Yeah. So on both sides. I mean, you take away the motivation, to get your job back next election, and you shift that motivation to making good decisions for a change. Imagine that, in any ideology, So I don't know. So I would ask our listeners, look it up. I think it's I don't know if it's conventionofstates.org or .com. Google Convention of States. You'll find it. Might find it interesting. End of soapbox.
Truman said this, and I think I've talked about this before, but it needs repeating, which was he said when he retired, if a politician enters office poor and leaves office rich, then he's a crook.
Right. And they all do.
And they all do nowadays.
You look on any side, on all sides, Yeah.
It's like Obama went into office as just earning his salary, and then they bought a $14 million mansion not too long ago.
But they were scandal-free.
And they were scandal-free. I think we need to remind people that that fighting back doesn't necessarily mean pick your gun and go to the government office. I think there are other ways. Yeah. What do they call it? Like civil disobedience kind of things. I mean, and I'm just saying this hypothetically. If they said
we're having 9 people for Thanksgiving, that's my civil disobedience.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Criminal in California.
Mm-hmm. I just saw someone too
call it a campaign rally for Biden, or you're protesting
that it would be okay.
Police brutality. Then you're fine. You can do it.
Who was it just said? Was it the Oregon governor who said that, or somebody just said that they encourage people to report their neighbors if they don't adhere to COVID, things. Yeah.
And Pennsylvania's closing the liquor stores on Wednesday. That's in today's news.
Now them are fighting words right there.
That's going to cause a revolution right there.
You just got to plan ahead.
I'm just saying. They're playing with fire on that one, man.
Wow. Well, trying to bring this out of control thing full circle.
Good luck.
I wanted to wrap it up with what I wrote down here as the biggest lie of all. And this is an exact quote. And this was the infamous situation Joe Biden was confronted by an auto worker who, questioned him about Second Amendment credentials and all that. And he said, to quote, "I support the Second Amendment." I'm sorry, you're a liar. I'm calling you Joe Biden. You're a liar. You don't support the Second Amendment. You don't support firearms ownership in any way, shape, or form. I don't care if you own a shotgun. You don't support it. And certainly the people around you and the people standing to your left don't support the Second Amendment. So he's a guy that can look in the camera and say that with all sincerity, but it's just not true. And we need to remember that when we're dealing with these folks for the next 4 years, probably.
I have to call you out on this a little bit because we don't know that. I mean, for all we know, Joe might have gotten the Second Amendment confused with the one that repeals prohibition. I mean, it could have just been like a numbers, flip flop thing. And it's, just saying it's possible.
I support pudding.
Hey, I think we can all get behind supporting pudding.
Yeah. Pudding rocks. But, when you read all of this, again, we're trying to have a rational, fact-based discussion, and the other side doesn't. They just don't. They can look at you and say, "No, I support gun ownership. I just want common sense gun laws." And, nobody needs these or those or them. But bottom line is, if they support gun control, they just don't want guns. They're scared of them. They're afraid of them. They think they create horrible carnage in the world, and they just don't want them. And they feel justified to say or do anything they want because it furthers the sacred cause.
Let me say one little tiny story which may help some people understand the way they think, those other people. I had an aunt one time who my uncle had married, who was a liberal artist kind of a person. And she knew I liked guns, and I was a cop, I think, at the time. And I went over to their house one day and I sat down, I took my gun off and I put it on the table next to me because it was poking me. And now my uncle didn't care. He wants to say, hey, what do you got there? Right. Well, she visibly recoiled in horror that I had done that. And it was not something we had not done before. We looked at guns in the house all the time. And so I stopped and I said, Margie, why are you so obviously terrified? And she said, I don't know. I don't want to be shot by the gun. And I said, well, it can't shoot you. And she said, well, how? So I explained it to her and she said, oh, see, I didn't know how to make it not shoot. So I've always been afraid that if you just laid it down, that it could still shoot me. And so we had a 3-minute lesson on how a Ruger Security 6 revolver can't hurt you if it's laying. And within 5 minutes, she's holding it up and going click, 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 and saying, would you take me shooting someday? And all that, but it was a real eye-opening experience for me because I thought it was as simple as that. And I think a lot of these people you see waving in the street signs and all that kind of stuff is they've never held a gun. They know nothing about it. They've only what they've seen on TV, only what Joe Biden has said, and I don't know how much energy do we have to continue to educate. I'm not sure. I'm going to keep trying. You know what? That's
a good point though, because it's easy and entertaining to create groups and them and us and them and us. But you know what? The very best thing we can do to help control our destiny is when you know somebody like that, take them shooting. Yep. Take them shooting. I'm always been real reluctant about using party names in this whole shooting thing because there are a lot of people that vote differently than I do bought guns this year, and you know what? I'd like to take them shooting. Yeah. Let's go.
But unfortunately, a lot of them probably voted for Mr. Biden. And I say,
they might,
shame on you.
They might have, but you know what? It took me a while to learn things about things, right? So, hey, maybe 2 years, from now or 4 years from now, they might develop different opinions the more they learn. So
I will agree
somebody like that, take them shooting.
If in a perfect world, we could suddenly get, say, 25% of gun owners to take one anti-gunner out to the range and do it responsibly and have fun, I guarantee you it would turn the tide.
Yeah.
We've seen it in classes. People that are either afraid or ambivalent, or I've seen just a couple in my own experience of outright anti-gun people that still felt like they wanted to come to class. And at the end, they're all just like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is neat. It's safe. You guys.
I enjoyed that. That was fun.
And they get it. So ignorance, fight ignorance.
And I think if and this is so hard to do, Who was it? The Dalai Lama said that it's always important to be kind, and it's the most important to be kind when it's the hardest to be kind. But we just have to remember that is that no matter what insanity we're faced by, I think it's important that we maintain the high road here. We really do, because when all is said and done, all is said and done. And I don't know, just do the right thing here. And even though they're not going to do the right thing, they'll do the left thing.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I didn't even set the timer tonight. We've had all kinds of trouble with our video feed. So I'm hoping we're even still on the air, but I don't know how long we've gone, but let's go.
2 hours and 47 minutes.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, because we could go on this, no doubt, and looking at comments, anyway. So, okay, Tom, McHale, 30 seconds, wrap it up, go.
Take somebody shooting. I just saved you 27 seconds with that.
There you go. So. Sir, Mr. Roy?
What Tom said. No, be an ambassador. It's really the only thing that Sam and Susie Homemaker can do. What else can we do? Vote or be an ambassador.
Yeah. I'm going to take the darker, cynical tone and say, just remember, they're lying. They believe it, or maybe they don't. I don't know, but they're lying. They, quote unquote, are lying.
As my grandfather used to say, them sons of bitches.
Well, we weren't going to use big words tonight.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? That's not mutually exclusive either. leadership is absolutely lying. Voters like you and me and people who voted for whoever, they're not necessarily lying. I mean, one of Roy, I think you mentioned it a minute ago, people don't know. You don't know until you learn something. So there you go. Take somebody shooting. And they'll figure out leadership is lying.
I'm still trying to wrap around that one, but okay. Well,
you're spreading grassroots truth is what we need to focus on.
Okay. Man, this has been heavier than I thought tonight. We've got Tom and his philosophies, and we've talked about the Dalai Lama, and who could accuse us of not being highbrow here at the Gun Cranks? So, well, I hope everybody's had a great time with us here on Gun Cranks on Turkey Eve. We've actually canceled ours just out of an abundance of caution, not because any government agency told us to. We just felt like we're just going to skip it this year and call it the weird turkey freak out of 2020, and we'll see what happens come Christmas. Probably won't skip that regardless. But anyway, I hope everybody out there has a great Turkey Day, however yours is celebrated. And I've always got to give our obligatory, don't forget to subscribe. That is super, super critical to what we are doing. And it lets the corporate overlords know that, yes, these gunners aren't willing to go down without at least a fight. So all you got to do is subscribe, and then maybe hopefully share to all of your social platforms, and check out our social platforms and gunsmagazine.com and americanhandgunner.com and our books on amazon.com. So do all that stuff and keep us out here being highbrow about gun stuff. So on behalf of, do you guys want to say anything? I kind of dominated that for the last few seconds.
Bye, Mom.
Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Aha. I'm so happy I only got to use my sound buttons 3 times tonight. So anyway, have a great Turkey Day, and we will see everybody next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Gun Cranks. Thank you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Gun Cranks audio podcast. If you'd like to see the video from today's episode, check out our YouTube channel of the same name. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the Guns Magazine podcast and check out our other great publications, AmericanHandgunner.com, GunsMagazine.com, and AmericanCop.com.